We definitely have to start with this story. It is very serious. A lot of you have opinions, so we are switching gears here. You may have heard about the looting and demonstrations in Philadelphia. It's all over the police shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. For a second night now, Philadelphia has been torn apart with demonstrators confronting police and multiple stores being looted. Police said that the situation last night had rapidly gone downhill and that some areas were a total loss. 27-year-old Wallace Jr., there he is, was killed on Monday by two police officers. Wallace now suffered from mental health issues, and police had been called multiple times that day. He was shot 14 times by officers after he walked toward them with a knife. So video of the shooting did go viral. There was a lot of uproar, in my opinion, rightfully so. We're going to show this to you, but there is a warning to our viewers. This is graphic.
Yo, watch my wood. Yo, this is crazy out here. Oh! 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 Oh!
Wow. Well, Wallace's family is speaking out against the looting and the violence. They're also questioning, though, the use of force by police, wondering why they didn't use a taser. Take a look.
Everybody having respect for my family and my son to stop this violence and chaos was going on in the city.
Yes, I was telling the police to stop. Don't shoot my son. Please don't shoot my son.
The man was suffering. He was on doctor's care. He was on a regimen of lithium. It's emotionally taxing to think about how you could call for assistance and wind up with the people who you called killing you. I can't even conceive the concept.
Wow. And, you know, Erica Al, we recently had Areva Martin on the show. You guys remember her. She's an incredible attorney, Harvard graduate, a mother, a black woman. And she confessed on our show that even though she has great relationships with police officers and she always empowers police departments, especially because she's a criminal defense attorney and a civil rights attorney, she says that her son, who is a special needs son, she purposely dresses younger because, God forbid, he's ever in a situation where police are there. She fears that his life will too be taken. So she purposely dresses her son to look very young, even though I believe he's 18 years old. Al, watching that, what are you thinking right now?
Well, I mean, as somebody that has a special needs son, when the Elijah McClain story, where the police held him down and shot him up with enough ketamine to kill a horse, happened, my ex-wife called me and was like, this is every parent that's got a special needs child worst fear. And this is because, and I actually, Sam, on this show interviewed a social worker who said that social workers need to go to de-escalate. They are trained for this. They are prepared for this. When you're sending people that are not trained, all they have is a sidearm, this is the result we're constantly going to have. And I'm worried, Erica, that we're going to have people that do have family members that do need care. I've had family members that had to have civil services called for them on their behalf because they had lost a thread and they were undergoing a mental health episode, and they handled it well. But I wonder how many people will hold back because they're worried that this is going to be the result.
You know, Al, I appreciate you bringing up the resources out there because that's exactly what I was thinking. That's where my frustration lies with the intent on misinformation about what defund the police really means. It's really about the reallocation of funds and resources. It's programs like you're talking about with the caseworker. It's domestic violence liaison officers, which are volunteer positions. Last month, my husband and I got sworn in by the judge to be court-appointed special advocates. And a part of that program for CASA, child welfare, and a part of that program required us to do several seminars with many professionals in law enforcement and child advocacy. And one of them was a domestic violence liaison officer. And it has been her life's work to understand what goes into these calls. And oftentimes, child welfare, dependency and neglect, domestic violence, mental illness all fall under the same realm. She was explaining how they get the information and come up with a plan before they ever even get to the location of where the call is coming from.
Wow.
When you have someone who really understands all of the backstory behind how to approach, how to engage, how to do things in a way that military force or police force, excessive force isn't needed or utilized. And those programs are only offered in certain cities and counties across this country. Defund the police is really about reallocating funds in all cities and counties across this country so that we have more resources and more people who are more equipped to handle these types of calls.
Erica, thank you so much for clarifying that, because as you were speaking, I was reading our comments, and JR on Facebook just wrote, "You guys are so anti-police."
No one said anything about the police. I literally did not.
Right. Let's take the moment, though, to tackle that and have a conversation. Hopefully this viewer is still watching and you didn't switch the channel. No one here is anti-police. In fact, many of us have family members and friends that are in police departments. And we also think about those police officers because their lives are also put in danger when you have less reform, when you have less training, when you don't have adequate training, when you don't do the exact things that Erica just talked about, because then that creates a larger distrust between civilians and police officers. So not only do we want to advocate for the Elijah McClains and for the video that you just saw that absolutely is leaving my hands shaking right now. I mean, we're supposed to protect the most vulnerable, right? And we're not. And of course, all the unarmed black men. I mean, we covered George Floyd. We covered Ahmaud Arbery. And I know Ahmaud Arbery wasn't a police situation, but if you unpack it, you do learn that it did stem from some local retired police officers. So I just want you guys watching to know that we are not anti-police, that we just want reform and we want equality for all.
We are putting the police in the right place.
Yes.
If God forbid there was a zoo outbreak and there was a tiger on the streets, I don't want to send the police there. They're not trained to handle that. If a pipe explodes underground, I don't want to send the police there. They're not trained to handle that. They don't know what gases are coming out of it. When a building explodes, I don't want to send the police there. We send firemen because they're trained to handle that. When you're sending people that are not trained to handle these things, this is what's going to happen. This has nothing to do with the police at all.
And the police knew in this situation. There was so many phone calls given to the police officers that this person was mentally unstable. So in that moment, with proper training, with proper funding, reallocated funding to Erica's point, then you can set up those police officers to be an assistance with the right mental health professionals there with them. So I wanted to make sure that I addressed that to that particular viewer, and I hope that after this conversation that you will see from our perspective, we just want better. I think everybody can agree that this cannot happen.